The story of the Wesleyboyz did not begin in the bright lights of Chicago or the busy streets of Canton, Ohio. It began deep in the red clay soil of Mississippi, during a time when survival demanded strength, faith, and sacrifice from black families trying to carve out a better life in America. At the center of that story stood Wesley Howell and Rosie Lee Harmon Howell, two people bound together by faith, determination, and a promise made long before they understood the hardships waiting ahead. Wesley Howell was born on September 4, 1920, in Kosciuszko, the same small Mississippi town that would later become famous as the hometown of Oprah Winfrey. Life in rural Mississippi during the 1920s and 1930s was unforgiving for black families. Cotton fields stretched for miles, and opportunity was scarce. Yet even as a young boy, Wesley carried himself with quiet confidence and determination. Not far away, in Canton, Rosie Lee Harmon was born in 1925. While Wesley learned toughness in the fields, Rosie Lee learned faith in the church pews. She grew up attending church every Sunday, teaching Sunday school, and helping neighbors in her community. People admired her gentle spirit and strong moral character. She believed family and faith could carry people through anything. As teenagers, Wesley and Rosie Lee crossed paths often. Friends and family would later laugh about how Wesley followed Rosie Lee everywhere she went. One afternoon, while standing outside after church beneath the warm Mississippi sun, Rosie Lee smiled and told him words he would never forget. "I will marry you one day." Wesley never forgot that promise. The war years. By the early 1940s, the world was changing rapidly. World War II had drawn millions of young Americans into military service, including black men searching not only for opportunity, but dignity and respect. On December 13, 1942, at just 22 years old, Wesley joined the United States Army as a military police officer. He was stationed at Camp Shelby, where he served for 2 years, 6 months, and 11 days. Army life was difficult, especially for black servicemen serving in segregated units during that era. But Wesley remained disciplined and focused. Through letters and occasional visits, he stayed connected to Rosie Lee back home. And true to his word, Wesley kept his promise. On October 16, 1943, during his military service, Wesley and Rosie Lee were married in Canton. The ceremony was simple, but their love was powerful. They were young, hopeful, and determined to build something greater than the world had offered them so far, the modern middle-age passage. Like thousands of black families escaping the harsh realities of the Jim Crow South, Wesley and Rosie Lee joined what many would later call the Second Great Migration, a modern middle-age passage northward in search of freedom, jobs, and hope. They left behind cotton fields, racial violence, and communities where black families lived under constant fear. In Mississippi, hard work rarely brought advancement. Picking cotton from sunrise to sunset barely provided enough to survive, but the North represented possibility. Their journey first took them to Canton, Ohio, where factories and industry offered jobs unavailable in Mississippi. Soon afterward, in 1945, they made an even bigger move to Chicago, the great windy city that had become a beacon for black Southern migrants. Chicago felt alive. The streets buzzed with energy. Music poured from clubs along the South Side. Churches overflowed on Sundays. Black-owned businesses lined busy avenues, and families from Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, and Louisiana built communities together block by block. For Wesley and Rosie Lee, Chicago symbolized freedom, building a new life. Like many black men arriving from the South, Wesley found work in the stockyards and slaughterhouses near 47th and Halsted on Chicago's southwestern side. The work was exhausting and dangerous, but it provided stability. His brother J.B. worked there too, alongside many other black migrants who had traveled north searching for the American dream. Back then, work was about more than money. For Wesley and the other men, earning an honest living meant dignity. It meant being able to provide for their wives and children. It meant standing proudly as husbands and fathers after generations of hardship. While the men worked long hours, Rosie Lee built a home filled with love, discipline, faith, and laughter. The Howell household soon became known for its warmth and hospitality. Family members constantly stopped by, neighbors gathered on weekends, music played from radios while food cooked in the kitchen. And when the work week ended, Wesley and Rosie Lee enjoyed the excitement of Chicago nightlife. The young couple loved dancing at local Southside clubs. Jazz and blues music floated through smoky rooms as couples dressed in sharp suits and elegant dresses danced late into the night. Chicago offered experiences they never could have imagined back in Mississippi, but some of their best memories happened right at home. Friends and relatives crowded around card tables playing bid whist for hours while laughter echoed through the house. Arguments over cards turned into jokes, stories, and unforgettable family memories. Those nights created the bond that would eventually define the Wesleyboyz family. A new beginning. After years working in the slaughterhouses, Wesley decided he wanted something more independent. Determined to create a better future, he became an independent taxi driver. Driving a cab through Chicago introduced Wesley to every corner of the city, from the bright lights downtown to the busy streets of the South Side neighborhoods where Black families built new lives together. The job gave Wesley flexibility and pride. More importantly, it allowed him to continue building the foundation of his growing family. Then came one of the proudest moments of Wesley and Rosie Lee's young marriage. Their first son, Stanley, was born. Holding his son in his arms, Wesley understood that the sacrifices, the migration north, the hard labor, and the long nights had all been for something greater. The Wesleyboyz legacy had begun, and through every hardship that followed, racism, economic struggles, family trials, and changing times, the Howell family would rise together with courage, faith, strength, and love. Because the Wesleyboyz were more than a family. They were survivors of a generation that turned struggle into legacy.